Welcome to the Seat 14 podcast, a different perspective on college basketball told by those who lived it. Join us as we bring you insider views, analysis, breakdowns, and predictions from one of the most storied programs in the country, from someone who saw it all from the end of the bench, the 14th seat. In association with the Field of 68 and alongside producer Jordan Barber, I'm your host, Todd Lanter, and this is Seat 14. Welcome into episode 11 of C14 Podcast. Today is January 27th, 2022. We are presented by the Field of 68, powered by Bet River Sportsbook, as always, and Budweiser King of Beers. So win-loss update. We are, 16-4 now after taking care of Mississippi State at home at Rupp Arena on Tuesday. But we also have to discuss, obviously, the matchup with then number 2, now number 1 Auburn down there in Alabama. Jordan, what do you think, man? We're riddled up. We got after the Auburn game, we got Ty out, who didn't play against Mississippi State. We've got Severe Wheeler, who's all types of jacked up after running into multiple screens in Auburn as well, who did play against Mississippi State, albeit a little bit limited, a lot of ice packs, a lot of heating packs. And, you know, we had two other ankle twists. Oscar, who got away without much pain, and then Jacob Toppin, who rolled his pretty good in the Mississippi State game. But the injury's starting to take its toll. Is that going to be a problem on Saturday?
I don't know. Jacob looked like he blew his ACL when he fell, and luckily Cal said he thought he might have just been embarrassed. Because he blew it on that drive there and had to get back to the locker room. But no, I don't. I think we've gotten lucky that all of the injuries have been minor tweaks to, Severe's head injury does concern me quite a bit, because say what you will about, like, I may feel that this team plays best when Ty is at the point and you've got Davion and Kellen on the wings. But Severe is probably the third most important player to this entire team, and he'll be crucial down the road in games like you said it yourself that Fog is one of the toughest places to play in the whole country, and guys like Severe would keep your team under control in an environment like that.
Yeah, it's going to be rowdy in there, to say the least, on Saturday. Bill Self is one of really 3 coaches that, in my opinion, doesn't get along necessarily with Cal. They just have different philosophies in it. Coach K and Rick. But they just don't necessarily see eye to eye as far as the way they coach. Which isn't really much of an issue, but they butt heads. They're competitors, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of, they have mutual respect for one another, but both of them want to win this game very, very badly. I'll say that. So rewind back to, what was it? Was it last Tuesday, I guess? It's been a while now. It feels like forever. Saturday was Auburn. Yeah, Saturday was Auburn. Tuesday was Mississippi State. So rewind back to last Saturday, 9-point loss on the road at Auburn. Who is now the number 1 team in the country, who probably has the number 1 pick in the NBA draft this season in Jabari Smith, who really, had a good game, obviously, was super impactful. He had 14 and 7. 14 and 7. But, are they the number 1 team in the country? I don't think they are. I'm going to ask Jeff here shortly when he comes on. I think that, that their resume might suggest that they should be getting the votes for the number 1 team. I don't think that they're the best team or have the highest ceiling. I do think that they might have a pretty high floor, though. So after seeing us play against them, keeping in mind the loss at LSU and the loss at where else did we lose?
Notre Dame.
Where did we? No, the SEC game.
LSU and Auburn.
Wait, no. Oh, yeah, that's only the second one. Okay. See, that's why I was telling you I was getting confused because of the radio shows. Okay. So after seeing the loss on the road against LSU, And then going down to Auburn and playing who I think Auburn is twice the team LSU is. And we had that one within 9 points, even riddled with injuries and some foul trouble. What do you think? I mean, do you think that Auburn is all they're made out to be?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that they're twice the team LSU was. Now LSU is like, what are they, 3-4 in conference play? It's really weird how a veteran-led team like Kentucky can just fall apart on the road because of these injuries. I don't know, man. I just really don't know how to judge this team yet in these tough, you know, these are March style games happening in January, and you don't have two of your best and most impactful players on the court. It's really difficult to. I think the only thing you can really say is that on a neutral court with a better whistle and health, is there really much difference at all between Kentucky and Auburn? I can't see it personally. Like, if any team's got the type of guys to throw at Jabari Smith, it's us. I'm not going to say that we can stop him, but we can certainly limit his effectiveness as much as possible. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't believe that Auburn is all they're cracked out to be. I think they're phenomenally coached, well motivated, tough place to play on the road. I think that they do have an absolute powerhouse in Jabari Smith. Kessler is remarkable, especially at his size. He gave us 19
I want to
7
touch
as
on
well.
that about the Kessler's 19. That a lot of those came on that I refer to it as Spain pick and roll. I'm not really sure what it's called to in the college game, but when you essentially screen the screener as he rolls, obviously Kessler's going to be the primary screener out top, and then he receives a back screen as he's rolling to the basket. That right there was responsible for like 6 of his 7 dunks. That play right there.
But that step up screen is something that Kentucky should have been well prepared for.
Yeah.
I'm sure they were. We do a phenomenal job with the scouting reports and everything else. We know that that's how he's going to look for his baskets. But again, Bruce Pearl is fantastic at throwing in that little twist. And I say that ironically because those double back screens are called twists in a lot of cases. Or can be. It's a rotational thing defensively. But bottom line is those step-up screens are there, and all we have to do is kind of provide that shade of help a little bit to take it away. There's multiple ways to guard it, but bottom line was Cal, I thought, would have had the team prepared for that rolling lob that they like to get to.
That's what Kentucky likes to do.
That's what I'm saying. We use it all the time. And one thing the scouting reports kind of do for our players is they'll say what they're calling, like what Auburn's going to call this play, but they'll relate it to what a similar play that Kentucky runs so that we know it like the back of our hand. And whenever we hear that call out, we know what we're looking for. Now, again, Bruce is a phenomenal coach. He's going to put in those twists to kind of just throw a wrench in what we're trying to do defensively. But
wasn't
again,
that
phenomenal
much of a
coach.
twist, though? You know what I mean? Like,
no, it's not.
I think it's something you have to be better prepared for than that.
We should have been.
After it gets you 2 or 3 times, man, you know what I mean?
Well, you can make the adjustment, but the thing is though is what he does a good job of doing is kind of moving guys away so that the help can't be there for that lob. And when you run it effectively, it's going to work. And we just don't have the personnel necessarily. Oscar and we basically had Oscar and Keon, and then I think we played. Let's see how many minutes we had. Lance played 2 minutes. Bryce Hopkins played 1 minute, and then that's when Jacob got the majority of his run with 18 minutes down there. But go ahead.
I would say probably that from Bruce's side, if you're going to run that staggered pick and roll with Kessler receiving a screen in the paint as he's rolling, you're probably going to try and angle it to where that corner, because what we're talking about with the help is the corner man on the weak side needs to come down and shade towards the lob to try and impact it. well, if that person, if you're a proper offensive coach, you want that to be a Xavier Wheeler, for example, who's not going to be able to impact that play in any way.
That's my
I need to go
point.
back and look at the tape and see if Bruce pulled that off, but I'd expect it was more often than not, it was a smaller dude and not a Jacob Toppin who was providing that.
That's exactly what I'm
shade.
saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. There's a couple times that he obviously intentionally did that because he knew that the help side wouldn't be able to be there and affect the offensive play they're running. But those crackdowns are tough to get anyway, because even if that defender was capable of cracking down and taking that lob away, the skip pass is there. So when you run a good offense, if your team is patient enough to get to the second or third scoring option in those situations, even if they don't get a wide open lob at the rim, they're usually going to get a pretty good shot out of it because the defense ends up scrambling so much that there's something is going to be left open. And again, Bruce is a good enough coach to put us in a position where we're going to have to pick our poison. And that's one thing that Kentucky's fantastic at, because Cal's such a good coach that way. We might run the same play 10 times in a row, but we can use different assets out of that play, different options out of that play, and force the defense to kind of choose, pick your poison. How do you want us to score? And, that's why knocking down shots is so effective, because they have to keep that in mind. We can't leave the corner now. If we leave the corner, they're going to get an open three. And, that's a situation that is a lot of fun to be in when you're on the right side of it. So phenomenal game down there. I'm not upset. I obviously would have liked to have beat them, but there's a lot we've learned from that game. Again, we're riddled with injuries right now. I think we'll see those guys again in the SEC tournament, and I have all the confidence in the world after seeing that game that we will beat them, especially when we're fully healthy. I think that we have a lot further to go as far as the ceiling than Auburn does. I really believe that the development of the way our guys are starting to mold together will be leaps and bounds better in the next 6 weeks.
Yeah, I think something important for us to remember, and again, I don't want to discredit Auburn. They are as good as Kentucky right now, and clearly in some ways better. But I think that the fact that we are sitting here overanalyzing this one play that resulted in a 8 to 12 point swing on the game, and that made the whole difference in the game, shows us that really this year, say what you will about Gonzaga maybe, but 1 to 12 is pretty much, a crapshoot. All these teams are pretty good. There's not one team this year that is really just going to blow the doors off of every single, opponent that they come up against. So I like where we stood after that loss. It was an encouraging loss, good loss, even, if you will.
Well, let's move on. I'm not going to listen to that. I know we're not going to listen to that. Let's move on to Mississippi State. Oscar, another 22 rebounds. He damn near had a double-double at halftime. I think he had 12 and 9. Yeah, 12 rebounds, 9 points at halftime, I think. But ended up with 22 rebounds, 21 points. I'm going to talk to Jeff about this when he comes on here in a minute, but I think he's the front runner for the National Player of the Year. I've thought that all year long. I think this is his fourth, maybe fifth 20 rebound game. He's just an absolute monster on the boards. We need to get him an NIL deal with like Windex or something for cleaning the glass the way that he is. But a phenomenal performance all the way down the roster, to be honest with you. We had 21 from Oscar, 12 from Keon, 15 from Severe, 18 from Kellen, all started. And then Davion, honestly, has come off his second pretty awful performance. He holds himself to a higher standard than the way he's been playing. A couple silly mistakes that we're not used to seeing him make. Yeah, he's been phenomenal for us. He's say that again.
Just that I've liked him this year. I've liked how he's stepped in and filled his role off the bench. His role has changed and molded since last year, obviously, and he's been effective in it. But his last two games have been a downward slump from the way the standard he holds himself to, and I know he's aware of that. We're not going to harp on that at all. He'll bounce back. No,
but I think if he'd have had
my only concern like you said, I hope he's not harping on himself too much because that's his job. He has to come in and take shots. We need that scoring surge from him off the bench. I don't care if you miss, man. I just hope he stays confident and he stays aggressive because we're going to need him come March. And he is incredibly valuable. He really is.
He will bounce back. Those kind of games happen. We just happen to get two of them back to back that I know he's not going to be happy with. But nobody's more disappointed than he is in himself. There was a couple turnovers in the Auburn game that I know he wishes he could get back. So he's going to be in the gym working. I have no doubt he's going to come back on firing on all cylinders on Saturday. It wouldn't surprise me if he has a absolute dominant performance on Saturday. I really think he's going to live up to the moment.
Yeah. Do you think? Do you think that team looked good? The team looked good against Mississippi State, but do you think that the primary concern is just blowing that lead there at the end? I mean, that was a lot closer.
It was a big. It was a big concern. I'm obviously we can't have closings that way. We can't slip the way we did. Against a good team, that's a loss. If that was on the road, that's probably a loss. We got lucky. We got lucky that we were able to push overtime. We got lucky that Kellen stepped up and showed what he's capable of doing with knocking down shots. He's an absolute baller, and he had a chance to end it in regulation, pushed it a little bit too long there, but stepped in and made two huge back-to-back threes to go ahead and seal the deal for us. It's just not a position you want to be in against a mediocre team. I mean, Mississippi State is probably not going to be there, coming later in March. And there's going to be some tougher defensive teams. There's going to be teams that are more disciplined at the end of games. And we can't put ourselves in a position to get knocked off because we don't know how to close out a game. Now, with that said, again, no tie, a beat up severe, and a little bit of foul trouble once again, but those are the kind of things that you have to expect. We're not always going to have everybody available, whether it's because of health or foul trouble. And we have to be able to step in and guys play their role and close games out. Again, that's another thing that I think Davion is fantastic at that he struggled with as well. So, they're gonna hold themselves to the higher standard and they're gonna get better from this. I'm glad it ended in a win, but it should have never even gone to overtime. That game was, we had a healthy lead and should have been able to close it. The last 5 or 6 minutes
at one point.
Yeah, but even though it was a big lead, but the last 5 or 6 minutes, we really took our foot off the gas and gave them false confidence to get back into it. And that's the kind of things that can't happen as we get through these last couple weeks of the regular season and start looking at what the postseason is going to look like. You just can't give those teams that don't, you can't have a scare like that. It'll drain you of your energy going into the next game sometimes. And, you can't have a question mark on the way you're going to finish. You need to know that if it comes down to the wire, that your team is disciplined enough to execute offensively, stay disciplined and in a stance defensively, and just make the right plays. You got to be cool, calm, and collected when it comes down to the wire, because opponents can sense that insecurity or that hesitation, and that's when they're gonna put their foot down. So definitely something we need to improve on. So we're just not so
of insecurity and hesitation. My man Kellen Grady, I thought it was very encouraging to see Cal lean on him so heavily with Ty out of the rotation, Xavier banged up, Davion not playing his best. I want to see more of that. I want to see a lot more of that, especially if we're going to continue to struggle with this rotation as far as keeping our lead guards in. Because I think we need Kellen to have. I think I texted you this, or we said it on the. We said it on that little check-in that we had from the Mississippi State game. I was like, I want Kellen to have the confidence that Dante Allen has every time he comes in.
Yeah, exactly.
He's letting that thing fly, no hesitation. He knows what he's going to do before he catches the ball. I'm fine with that.
Oh yeah.
I want the guy who scored 2K at Davidson to do that. The guy who releases the ball picture perfect every single time with confidence. Like I really want more of that because I'm an analytical guy, and 3 is more than 2 at the end of the day.
Well, I think he's getting there, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch him to continue to develop because, like you said, he's got one of the purest strokes I've seen in a long time. I think
He
he's going to
leads the
end up
team
being
in minutes too. Did you know that?
Yes. Yeah, I did. And he's especially after, I mean, he had 43 minutes on Tuesday, but he's going to be 43 minutes on Tuesday.
Jeez.
But he's going to be, a huge, huge asset, obviously, for us going into March. But we need to take a quick break, and then we are going to come right back and introduce our good friend and, the OG of the Field of 68, Jeff Goodman, and he's going to discuss what's going on down the street in Louisville right now, which is fascinating to Kentucky.
Don't hurt yourself.
We're going to take a quick break. We're good. We're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back. This is C14. I know you love that.
Do it.
Let me take a second to tell you guys a little bit about our partners over at Bet Rivers Sportsbook. If you haven't signed up with Bet Rivers yet, now's the time because they are offering a $250 match bonus for your first deposit. What sets them apart, though, is that they require just one playthrough to turn your bonus into cash money. With their new Rush Pay instant approval, withdrawing your winnings is safer, more secure, and more reliable. With basketball season tipping off, get in on the action by going to betrivers.com today or by downloading the Bet Rivers iOS app. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. That's 1-800-GAMBLER.
Welcome back to Seat 14. Joining us now, Jeff Goodman. Jeff, let's just jump right into it, man. What the hell is going on down the road here in Louisville?
I don't know, but I think Kentucky fans are probably smiling at this one, right? I mean,
dumpster fire is pretty much all I can think to call it right now. I mean, you got no president, no AD, no head coach. I'm not sure what's going on. I don't know. I mean, honestly, I don't know how to talk about it because I really don't know what's going on or what to expect. So fill us in a little bit.
I mean, here's the deal. Like, think about this. 4 years ago when they hired Chris Mack, everybody, like universally, everybody kind of lauded this move. Everybody in the national media, everywhere, because, he had taken Xavier to places where they had never been, a #1 overall seed. They were in the tournament every year. He seemed to be the right hire. And I know Chris well, and I thought he was the right hire too, but I think it's several things, right? Everybody wants to put it just on the NCAA investigation. That played a part. It did. But there was a lot of, obviously, staff issues, as we saw with the Dino Gaudio situation, right? So you had the combination of staff dysfunction. They didn't like each other. Okay, so it wasn't just Chris firing them because Luke Murray and Dino Gaudio weren't getting the job done. It was also that they weren't working well together. So you had that. You had the NCAA stuff. Then you had the fact that there just wasn't a lot of talent in the program the last couple of years. David Johnson, let's face it, Todd, you and I could have gotten David Johnson to stay at Louisville. He's a local kid. He was going there anyway. It didn't matter who was the head coach. Samuel Williamson was supposed to be a top 25 player. He's been a piece, no more than that. And that entire class of 2019, they're all either gone or it's Jalen Withers who's regressed. So the development hasn't been there with a lot of the players. Your best player a year ago was Carlik Jones, a Radford transfer at Louisville. Like you can't have that at Louisville at that level. And I think Mack he was tired of it at this point. I think he saw the writing on the wall of he was going to be fired at the end of the year anyway. He saw that this team stunk. And I've said it publicly already. Murray State has a better roster right now than Louisville.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I think he saw that there was no, like Mark Turgeon did this earlier in the year at Maryland, and he had talent. He did it 9 games in, and Maryland's got talent to be able to beat people. Their upside was there. There's no upside with this Louisville team. There's none. So Chris Mack said, you know what? If I can go out and get my $4.8 million and give Mike Pegues some more time to try to, maybe he can get another job out of this. He's not getting a Louisville job, but maybe he can get a head job out of this. They're pretty tight. I think Chris just felt like, what am I doing this for? Like I'm not into it. I'm going to sell the players short by sticking around. So let them at least not deal with the distraction that I'm going to be, because all the talk is going to be about me being fired at the end of the year. So now at least the players don't have to deal with that.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I heard, after seeing the little bit that I've gotten to see, obviously the Kentucky Louisville game was canceled this year, but I've seen them several other times. Being down the road an hour, we love to hate them. So there's plenty we have to listen to from the local media about, Louisville Hate Week has already happened. We haven't even had the game yet because it got canceled. But this team appears to me, at least, to be worse than any Kentucky or Louisville team in the last 2 decades. And I mean, we had one, as Jordan likes to say, one Billy Clyde Gillespie that at least in the second year was not
Bully
such
Clyde.
a hot.
Remember, Bully
Clyde.
Don't call him Billy.
Exactly.
Bully Clyde.
Yeah, that's right. But and Jordan even told me, just to age you and I just a little bit, that he doesn't even have any memory before Gillespie got here of Kentucky basketball, which is awesome. Like, we just spent weeks talking about Tubby Smith before his jersey retirement, and then obviously the loss of Coach Joe B. Hall recently. So we've been having to go back in the archives a little bit
Jordan
and educate Jordan a little bit. So just I know you have a personal relationship with Chris Mack. I personally love him. I thought it was a great hire at the time as well. I thought it was, he was class. His players spoke well of him, at least from what I had heard. And, this is just a tough situation, but sometimes a divorce is good for both parties, right? Is this something that you think he'll coach again?
He's told me he's retiring. Now, again,
really,
you're at the heat of the moment now, but he's been a guy who's told me forever that he's not going to coach till he's 65 or 70, but he's only 51. And I think you're going to find that a bunch of schools are going to call Chris Mack, whether it's this March or next March in April. I think he's far more likely to do something in a year than he will be just in a few months. But he's a different dude. He's not a guy. Listen, here's how I'll put it with him. When you go out on the recruiting trail, he's the only coach who brings his daughter with him. And he's got 2 daughters. Yeah.
All right. Well, good or bad coach for Louisville. Regardless, that doesn't necessarily make a difference to me. He seems to be a phenomenal guy. His players seem to like him. But one thing that you can't say negative about him is he loves to be a father. That man loves to be a dad. Yeah. And I was, that's, to your point, I'm glad you said that about bringing his daughters on the road. You just see him constantly, embracing and educating his kids. And it's hard to hate a guy like that. So
that's the tough part of all these
They're
coaches.
Still a man.
Yes. They're human beings and they have families, and those daughters have to go to school and maybe hear some things that they shouldn't have to hear from other kids potentially. It's hard enough. I know this because I've got a teenage daughter who's a senior in high school. It is hard enough to be a teenage girl these days with all the social media bullshit. And you throw in your father just got fired at Louisville. That's not easy.
So Jordan wanted to know, I want to make sure, can't even speak. I want to make sure I ask you, how does this compare to any other D1 meltdowns you've seen, across some of the Power 5 schools? Can you think of any other time that, maybe not even just, this isolated incidents with the Dino situation and everything, but just the compilation of what Louisville's gone through over the past, 8 years, 7 years? I can't think of anything comparable to what we've had to see. And I know, again, I always want to reiterate something when I'm talking about a school like Louisville. It's right down the road from me. So we, because of the close proximity, have to hear more about it than I assume everybody nationally does. But these couple stories that have piled up over the last few years seem a little heavier, even with the proximity, than anything else I've ever seen.
Yeah, you have 2 extortion instances and stripper gate or whatever you want to call it. I don't remember what we ended up calling it, but I'm here in Boston where deflate gate was the term. So I'm going with stripper. It's been a shit show. There's no other way to describe what Louisville basketball has been. Now, again, they've had their times when they've been really good too. They won a national title. Yeah. It seems like forever ago, and it was a long time ago, but as recent, in the same time as Kentucky won its last national title. So, it just feels like the drama has continued throughout that program. And the Dino Gaudio thing, and I don't want to spend a lot of time in it, but what I do want to say to it is it's not. I saw somebody put out there that Chris Mack turned him into the FBI. Chris Mack never wanted it to get to the FBI. That's the last thing he wanted. What he did was he recorded and then reported that conversation to the powers that be, the people above him, whoever it was. Those people brought it to the FBI. Eventually it got to the FBI level, but Chris Mack didn't want it to the FBI. The last thing he or Dino Gaudio wanted was getting it to that level, but it was too late at that point to reel it back in. Once the FBI gets involved, you can't all of a sudden tell them, no, we don't want you to investigate. They were already going on. And, the other part is it's interesting because if that didn't happen, then you wouldn't have the level 2 violations and Chris Mack would have gotten all 12 million. I think the level 2 violations were complete bullshit personally. And I know a lot of people will say, well, you're close with Chris Mack. Listen, I'm fine. You fired him because he didn't make the tournament for 2 straight years. That's legitimate. That's factual. You can't not make the tournament. I don't even care in a pandemic for 2 straight years. But to get level 2 violations for personalizing videos for recruits and for having GAs work out with the players when they're not supposed to, for that to cost him basically $7 million is stupid. I mean,
I'm
go ahead.
I'm 100% in agreement. I'm 100% in agreement with you. I mean, I can't understand. It's kind of like the domino thing. It just one after the other. Once that first domino fell, now they're looking up your skirt, and like you said, you can't just be like, all right, well, you can stop there. Like you open the door for them, and I'm not, college basketball, especially with the whole NIL thing right now, is just a jumbled mess. It's the wild, wild west out there. And the last thing you want is to give them a reason to come looking. Right. So I think that's, part of the problem. It just, the compilation of everything, somebody had to be held accountable. And unfortunately, it's the boss man when it comes down to it. But I know you got a jam-packed schedule today. So there's a couple other things I want to get to real quick. I want to know, Kentucky's lost at LSU, at Auburn. But how big are those losses for a school or a team like Kentucky? Like, in other words, where does the SEC fall in comparison to the other Power 5 conferences this year? What do you think?
I think it's right there. I mean, I think the Big 12 is better from top to bottom because you don't have some of those teams at the bottom that frankly bring it down like the SEC does. I know Georgia won earlier this week in a big win over Alabama, but they stink. Vandy stinks. There's some bad teams at the bottom of the SEC.
Missouri isn't good either, and they're giving people a run for their money.
They are. They've changed. They've at least changed their personnel, who they're starting and playing, and I think they've responded to Konzo. But to me, Georgia's kind of, again, there's just a lot of teams at the bottom of the league that aren't very good. In the Big 12, the worst team is like Kansas State, and they're not far off from the bubble right now. So I would say, here's my other take on Kentucky is let's get them back whole again with Ty playing and let's see, because I still feel like this team is as good as almost any team in the country when it comes to, I just saw Illinois and I like Illinois a lot, Illinois, Michigan State in person. And I just walked away saying, like, Illinois, when they get whole, they're not going to have too many holes. They have wing shooters who can also guard, by the way. They have a big boy down low. And they have a really good point guard if he comes back in Andre Curbelo. I'm saying the same things about Kentucky, the exact same things for the most part, other than the fact that their wings aren't as good defensively as Illinois' Trent Frazier. But you got multiple point guards. That's the area, to me, Todd, where Kentucky separates itself from almost any team in the country this year. They have multiple point guards, and the teams that win it all, generally, if you look back, have multiple point guards.
Well, I've said this on another episode earlier this week and on the ESPN pregame show that I do, that, it's not good that Ty's out, obviously, but it might be good for this team because we got severe banged up, getting hammered on every screen. Ty's out.
That's Oscar's fault. Oscar's fault.
We're in agreements there. And that's the one thing that I have criticized that man for this year. But we're getting the ball in Kellen's hands. We're getting the ball in Davion's hands a little bit more than we should be. but it's given them comfort and confidence going in to the latter part of this season, because if we have a situation where there is an injury, God forbid, or foul trouble later in the season, we need to be able to rely on those guys to handle the ball. So I know you got to get out of here. I want to give you one more thing real quick. First off, is there a truly dominant team this season? Do you think Auburn? I mean, Auburn's number one.
No.
Do you think anybody is an outlier? Because I mean, even though Auburn's number one, they have the criteria to have met the number one in the AP this week. I don't think that they're the best team in the country, and I don't think that anyone is clearly the best team in the country. Do you have an opinion?
I agree, and I would say this again: Wendell Green, even in the game against Kentucky, was not good for most of that game. I still worry whether or not he was playing over his head earlier in the year, and now he's got big balls,
yeah,
and he can shoot the ball from deep, but I just still worry about him being consistently good for 6 straight games. And you're going to need that if you're Auburn, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the beauty of Kentucky. If Wheeler's off and he goes 2 for 12, all right, you can pull him and put the ball in Ty's hands.
Yeah.
So
that's one thing that's made us, that's one thing I think's made us so fantastic is Ty, as good as of a talent as he is. He's like we always talk about at Kentucky, he's a freshman. It's got to get those, get through those learning curves, which is, you're in the express lane as far as that goes here. And he hasn't really had the pressure that other freshmen of his status have had here because of the guys like Kellen Grady, who's a 2,000 point scorer from Davidson, a guy like Oscar, who's obviously, in my opinion, leading the National Player of the Year race in a transfer from West Virginia. So we have quote unquote vets on this team that are able to come out and perform every night and pretty much alleviate Ty's pressure or the weight on his shoulders. And he's still coming out and doing his thing. And it's honestly being overlooked. So last thing, and I'll leave you with this.
Can I, before we go back, let me finish that answer. I think Gonzaga's still got the upside to be the best team in the country.
I think so too. That's
point
who
guard
I had
play.
early.
Yeah, they got Nemhard at the point, and they got a freshman Hickman who's coming, not as quick as Ty, but he's going to be good. So you got 2 point guards. You got the most productive veteran who's experienced coming back in Drew Timme, and you have Chet Holmgren to help him with that length. Like Timme struggled with length, both guarding and scoring against length. Well, now you've got Chet, who's 7 feet, can step out, is a dominant shot blocker, shot alterer. So I still think Gonzaga has the potential to go. Yeah. Their ceiling is higher than anybody else's.
I agree totally. I still have them as number one. And Chet is unlike any talent I've seen in quite a long time, at the college level especially. So last thing, and I'll let you go. I have thought from the beginning of the year with the way Oscar's been playing, the kind of obscene numbers he's putting up. I mean, every day that I go in to cover the game and I'm plugging in, the people's averages and stuff, he's literally double every other team's, leading rebounder. He's just, it's obscene what he's doing. And he's getting almost double doubles at halftime. I mean, it's pretty absurd. But anyway, I digress. Point being, what is the criteria for National Player of the Year? Because it's like 2 weeks ago, everybody on the national stage was just like, oh, who's this guy that wasn't very good at West Virginia, that's obviously doing his thing at Kentucky that we need to pay attention to. But for me, it's been going on all year. I mean, he's had 320 rebound games before anybody even started talking about him in the national media. And then I saw your tweet a couple weeks ago as well. I think if the race ends today, he's a clear-cut leader. And I just want to know what, in your opinion, meets the criteria for the National Player of the Year if it's not the most value to your team. I mean, if we don't have Oscar on this team, we've won like 2 games.
Yeah, and I would say the same thing for Wisconsin and Johnny Davis is if you take him off their team, and I had them as high as like number 6 a couple weeks ago before they lost at home to Michigan State last weekend. If you take him off their team, I'm not sure they're an NIT team. I'm not sure, honestly. Oh, wow. So I feel like the problem with Kentucky fans, and all fans, but Kentucky fans probably more than most, is you guys get so wrapped up in your own team that sometimes you forget that there are actually other teams and other leagues out there and other players that are they're really good. Oscar's awesome. He's so dominant that honestly, his teammates don't even try to rebound the ball at times. They just look at him and expect him to go get every rebound. And I think that's going to hurt Kentucky at some point. If and when Oscar he's gotten in foul trouble and he's off the court, those other guys almost don't know what the hell to do because they've stood around and watched Oscar get every rebound, and it's almost like foreign to them. There are other really good players. That's all I'll say is E.J. Liddell's had an unbelievable year at Ohio State. So is Keegan Murray at Iowa. There's other great players. Nobody has dominated on the glass like Oscar Tshiebwe. Nobody has dominated on the glass like him. And the other part for Oscar, he's gotten much better at scoring in the post. Much better.
Yeah, he has. His offensive game down there has developed extensively, but I was really excited to see that matchup with Ohio State. Obviously, COVID issues. But anyway,
they didn't win.
It would have been.
Todd, they didn't win enough early. So I think when you looked at it 3 weeks ago, my big thing was I didn't have Kentucky in the top 25 3 weeks ago. They hadn't beaten anybody. At that point, they hadn't beaten anybody of note. Now they've beaten some teams. Now you give Oscar more credibility. But to me, you're always starting with the teams that are at the top, you literally top of the poll. You work your way down. And then if you're not in the top 25, it's hard to justify giving somebody the National Player of the Year award. So that's why, for me, 3 weeks ago, Oscar wasn't in the equation in the top 5. Now he's probably moved somewhere in that top 5. I haven't looked at it lately, but he's somewhere. It's as wide open on January, whatever we're 23rd or whatever today is, than it's ever been. There's probably 10 guys who have a shot.
Well, you got to be careful, Jeff. You're going to make some Big Blue Nation smile. You got to watch that.
I just say it the way it is. You know that. I say it the way it is. And I know you guys are happy that Louisville's falling apart over there. The only thing I would say is, listen, here's the only thing I'd say is when bully Clyde Gillespie was fired, and I've always said this, I don't think he should be coaching basketball. I don't think he should be coaching kids. Chris Mack is a good human being, a good guy with a really good family and 3 kids, and just be smart about that because you don't want to wish ill will on anybody who's a good human being. And listen, he's made more money in his life than he ever thought possible. And he said it yesterday when they interviewed him. He's like, don't feel bad for me. I'm not the victim. He's going to be on a beach somewhere soon, drinking Coronas with no worry. Me and you would love to be Chris Mack right now with what he's got in his bank account.
Hey, I could not possibly agree more. I mean, I don't think Billy should have been coaching when he left here. I think Chris Mack is one of the, best family men. He was put in a bad situation. And it's a tough way to respond because he's, he was cleaning up quite the mess. With that said, I am not one of the people that wants to see Louisville fail. If I'm, watching the football game, the playoff football games lately, I want to see the kicker go out and win it from 55 yards, not somebody miss an extra point to lose the game. And it's better for the brand of basketball and for the state of Kentucky when Louisville's good. That's what I want to see. So I really hope they recover. That rivalry is something that's near and dear to my heart that I want to continue to watch. So I'll leave you with this last thing, and we got to go. I know. Kentucky's got Kansas on the road this weekend. What do you think?
It's a tough game. Both teams aren't really whole and haven't been lately. Kansas is really trying to figure this thing out. Remy Martin was supposed to be one of these huge, grad transfers from Arizona State who would take Kansas over the top with his speed at the point guard position. Bill Self wanted to get faster. They couldn't run last year at all. They had no speed at the point guard spot. Well, Remy Martin really hasn't been a part of this team. Not much. I mean, so Ochai Agbaji's the other guy that I didn't mention. You're going to see National Player of the Year. I might give it to Ochai today. He's been that good for Kansas on both ends. He guards. Look at his numbers. I mean, ridiculous shooting the ball from 3. The best part of Ochai is, like, I asked Bill Self earlier this year. I'm like, why? He was like a 300 recruit. And I'm like, why'd you take him? He's like, man, he wanted to be here and he's a great kid. I'm like, that's not why you take kids at Kansas. But he's progressed. He is the poster child for somebody who has just gotten incrementally better every single year. And he is an unbelievable kid. Kansas doesn't have, like, Ochai is probably a late first rounder. You watch them and you're going to be like, they don't have NBA talent at all. And they haven't for years. That's why I give Bill Self a lot of credit. I think he's a terrific coach. And we'll see, obviously, what happens with them in the NCAA investigation. So to answer your question, I think Kansas wins because Fog Allen, to me, is 1A or 1B, the best home court advantage in college basketball.
Oh yeah, it's up there. To me, it's probably the best, and I've only been there one time, but
awesome.
Granted, it's a little bit different when we're in town. So I'm excited for this one. It's going to be fun. Last thing. I know you got to go. We're 8 minutes past your heart out. I want a yes or no. I don't want an explanation.
Sure.
Yes or no.
Yep.
Did Shaedon Sharp ever play a game in blue and white?
Who ever play a game? Yes. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
I'm just hopeful. I'm hopeful. I love the kid. You know how much I love Shaedon Sharp. I want to see him play college basketball.
Okay.
So bad.
Well, because you said ever, does he play a game this season in blue and white?
I don't think.
All right.
No, I don't think so. But next year, I'm hopeful that they understand that he needs a year. But man, I'm telling you, I don't know who. There's 3 guys I'd take ahead of him right now in the NBA draft, and it's Jabari Smith, Chet Holmgren, and Paolo Banchero. And if I'm drafting, I do not let that kid get beyond 4th if I'm drafting.
Yep. I think that he will not play a game here. And I have been
I hope you're wrong.
It hurts me to say that, but because of what you just said.
Yeah. It's hard to turn that down. But, you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, if he doesn't play a game this season and the NBA people say, hey, listen, you're going to be the 4th pick, you're going to make $2.5 million guaranteed next year. How do you not take that? That's hard.
Well,
and he's older.
Go ahead.
Too.
Sorry.
He's older.
Yeah.
He's older. So it's not like, he's like Amani Bates, a young freshman or something like that. Like he's an old freshman. So, man, I hate that if that happens, because I friggin' love Shaedon Sharp, and I want to see what he can do in college next year. I think he can be the National Player of the Year next year.
Well, when he leaves, he will leave with Cal's blessing. That's one thing we can count on. So, best of luck to his decision. He'll do what's best for him and his family. But enough on that. We're going to look ahead to Kansas when we come back. Thanks for joining us, Jeff. And Jordan and I will be right back.
We want to take a moment to tell you about our friends over at Liquid IV. Liquid IV's Hydration Multiplier is a great tasting daily electrolyte drink mix that utilizes the breakthrough science of cellular transport technology to deliver hydration to the bloodstream faster and more efficiently than water alone. Just add the electrolyte powder to your water and let CTT do the rest. With 3 times the electrolytes of sports drinks, as well as 5 essential vitamins, Liquid IV comes in convenient, travel-friendly, single-serving packets. It is non-GMO with no artificial ingredients and comes in 8 delicious flavors, including lemon lime, pina colada, watermelon, passion fruit, guava, acai berry, apple pie, and my personal favorite, strawberry. So head on over to liquidiv.com, that's liquid-iv.com, and plug in code SEAT14 at checkout to enjoy 25% off of your order. Liquid IV, fueling life's adventures.
All right, so Kentucky, Kansas at Kansas. They're undefeated at home, 17-2 this year, 10-0 at home on Saturday. So today is Thursday. I expect the line to come out early in the morning tomorrow. Obviously not out yet. I think it's going to be around 3.5. What do you think, Gordon?
Yeah, I think you got to keep it low. Kansas has had several close games against not the best competition lately. So it's a toss-up to me. Those usually stay between 2 and 4. So Kansas will be favored, though. Obviously, Kansas will be favored.
Yeah, well, their only 2 losses were Dayton on their home floor. Or wait a minute, I'm sorry. Dayton was on where was Dayton? Must have been a neutral site game, I guess, because it wasn't at Dayton. And then at Texas Tech, who was number 25 in the country at the time of that loss on January 8th. So they just came off of a double overtime win against Texas Tech. If you saw that game on Monday night, that was interesting. Texas Tech's a tough team, and Kansas fought hard through that one. It's going to be interesting. I really, I think a lot of it's going to be dependent on Ty's availability. Without Ty, it's going to be real tough to get out of there with a win. So, obviously we hope for health's sake that he is, recovering well from his ankle sprain. But, as far as our selfish needs and concerns for Saturday's game, we hope he's available. Obviously, health comes first. Last thing we want to do is bring him back early and have him retweak that ankle if it's weak. I don't think he'll go unless the staff gives him the okay. Obviously, even though he wants to play in this game more than anything, I promise. But at number 5, Kansas, man, they're a tough team. That's one of the top, as Jeff said, one of the top 2 or 3 home court advantages in the country, in my opinion. And they are going to be rowdy as all get out on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, man, it's going to be a good game. I think one of the areas Kansas doesn't get very much production inside, so I'll be interested to see how Oscar manages that game. He's been playing much better on offense recently. That baseline take he had against Mississippi State for the and one reverse, I was like, whoa, dude, where'd that come from? So we'll see if he can get going. I imagine they're gonna. It all depends on Ty's availability ultimately, but I'd imagine they're gonna try and focus on Oscar at the start of the game. Cal is probably gonna try and feed him and see if they can get him going. I think we're gonna miss the most from Ty is honestly, and he doesn't get enough credit for this. He's a very sound defender. He's smart. We know he's smart. He's also athletic. He's a big body. He's going to be sorely missed guarding Agbaji, who is one of, as Jeff said, his front runner for Player of the Year. Ty does a lot on defense for this team that people maybe don't realize.
Yeah, I mean he's crazy athletic, quicker than he gets credit for. Long wingspan, just
smart,
the ability to and he's in the right place at the right time defensively. He does what seems to be a good job of communicating. So yeah, it's going to be a blow if we can't have him available on Saturday. But I really do think, I think he's going to play. I think he's going to be ready to go.
I'd imagine.
The ankle,
just remember the way that they came out against Auburn, and he was causing chaos on the defensive end, and Auburn's the number 1 team in the country. And I mean, there were so many turnovers early on. Like when this team really gets going with Oscar's athleticism, they can really cause a lot of chaos for the other team. With Ty and Severe hounding ball handlers.
Well, as far as Ty's injury is concerned, it looked really bad at first. Obviously, the scare factor as well for him. When he's rolling around, you get nervous because it looked like he thought he knew something was wrong. Bad wrong. But then he was able to walk after getting help to the bench. He was able to walk to the locker room under his own power. That's obviously a good sign that he could put a little bit of weight on it then. And there's at least buzz around whether he'll play or not. If it was bad enough that it was a terrible high ankle sprain, then honestly you're better off breaking it if it's a bad enough high ankle sprain. And obviously he didn't break it, or we would have heard about the surgery coming up or something by now. And they're teasing that he should be available or that he might be available. I think if he can play, he's going to play. So it's going to be if he plays, he'll start. I think. I don't think this will be a situation where they're like, we don't know if he's good enough to go. Let's sit him. And if we need him, we'll play him. I don't think they would do that to him. He's either going to be cleared and on the court and ready to go and start, or he won't. And if he doesn't, then they'll probably. I wouldn't say they're going to speak a minute restriction, out loud. But I'm sure that because he's going to be a little tender, they're going to pull him, maybe a little faster than normal. Make sure he's feeling good. Retape if you need to. All those things. Those ankle injuries are everyone's unique. They're all different. It's not like anything else where they can, it's going to be a lot based on his pain tolerance and tenderness and, for lack of a better word, how loose it feels. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a trainer. I can't speak to that, but I can speak having rolled many an ankle. You pretty much know whether you can go or not. If the staff clears him and he feels comfortable, he's going to be out there ready to fight and get us the win on the road. So we're looking forward to that. The SEC Big 12 matchup Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern time. Going to be a war. We'll do a little follow-up teaser for the social media stuff ahead of that game. And I think we're going to start doing the halftime stuff too with you and I, which will be a lot of fun. So we can get more engaged in the actual moment, because we're doing these episodes, 2 or 3 days ahead of the next matchup, and sometimes a day or two after the last game. So we're going to try to do a better job of being more hands-on in the moment. So we'll start doing the halftime, fillers for social media purposes and everything, starting Saturday for the Jayhawks game. It's going to be a fun one. So we want to cover one last thing before we head out this week.
Shameless,
and that is coming off shameless, zero shame in this. If you're most of us who are college basketball fans, are sports fans in general. The weekend that we saw in the divisional playoff rounds in the NFL is unlike anything I can remember. 3 of the 4 games ended in a go-ahead field goal at the closing seconds. One of them went to overtime. I tweeted during that coin flip going into overtime that whoever won the coin flip was going to win the game. When you got Allen and Mahomes opposing each other, the way they've been playing and their ability to dissect the defense and pick them apart, it makes you want to change the NFL rules for the overtime, because obviously I think the Bills deserve to get the ball back after the performance they put on. But congrats to Patrick Mahomes and his ability to get it done in overtime. And they advance to what's going to be one hell of a weekend in NFL football. So what's your pick? So you got?
I like Cincinnati as a 7-point underdog against Kansas City. I wouldn't take them outright to win, but I could absolutely see them keeping it close. Jamar Chase is just a matchup nightmare for other teams, and he showed that. What did he have? 200 and he had 200 plus yards in the one time that they played against each other this year. That's got to scare the Chiefs going into it. San Francisco and LA, I think that's a lot more of a toss up. I hate that LA took my boy out. They might have just retired my guy, and that kills me, because I'm a Lions fan too.
Wait, Brady. Retired who?
Brady.
You think you don't think he retired?
I don't think, obviously he hasn't said anything, but I think
he's not retiring. He's not retiring.
He's been saying some stuff, man. He's been saying some
he's not retiring.
Things that I have never heard him say.
He's still putting up legendary numbers at the age of 45 or 55 or 65 or how old he is. He's still one of the best quarterbacks in the league, the way he's playing right now. No, he's not retiring. He's coming back.
He knows how good he is, but I'm telling you, dude, I've been a Patriots fan for a while, and I love Tom Brady, and he is he's talking about his commitment as a husband and as a father, and these are things he's not retiring. Really floated out there. I sure hope he does.
He's not retiring. He's not retiring. And I don't know if you know this, but Tom Brady plays for Tampa Bay, not for New England anymore. I'm not sure if you're aware. But he's gonna come back. Even if he retired, where are you gonna go? He's in Tampa. He could make like Kyrie and make it his part-time gig. They'll be okay with that.
James Harden might not be okay with that.
Yeah, seeing that? James Harden, unfortunately, Tom Brady doesn't answer to James Harden. So he's coming back. He's coming back. Yeah. But let's look forward to Sunday.
I have one thing real quick.
Okay.
What we saw in Kansas City and Buffalo is kind of a sad reminder that sports change a lot over time. And as we've seen in the NBA with the 3-point revolution, and have the 5 most skilled players, not necessarily the 5 guys that fit into the stereotypical position archetypes. Similar things are occurring in football, where the quarterback play has just gotten so outrageous, and defense has gotten so restricted by both the rules and that there's only so many coverages that have been thought of. It's almost like now, man, if you don't have a top tier, we use this term Terminator at quarterback, like Josh Allen, you just can't hang. And I don't know. It's just like a kind of a sign of the times, I thought, that Buffalo has the best defense in the league and was just getting chopped up at will, you know?
Yeah. Well, we got at least two of the best quarterbacks in the game, both the future of the NFL. Also, Josh Allen from last week with the matchup with Mahomes, but and then obviously we got
Joey B, Joey Buckets.
Yes, I'm saying we got the same situation for the conference championship this Sunday. So the face of the NFL is it's in good hands. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's the easiest tweet that you've been gassing up your overtime tweet. I think that's the next step for you in terms of easy tweets that'll get some interaction. The league is in good hands. That.
Thanks. The league is in good hands. So I think you said it's a 7-point favorite for the Chiefs at home at 3:00 Eastern time on Sunday, and then Niners Rams at 6:30. What's that at 3.5?
Yeah, Rams are favored 3.5.
Okay.
I would probably take LA and Cincinnati. I'd probably take LA and Cincinnati.
You're against the spread, but who do you take outright? Who's going to the Super Bowl?
Dude, Super Bowl. I love San Francisco.
You're taking Chiefs. You're saying Chiefs. You're saying Chiefs Rams Super Bowl.
It's tough. I think Chiefs are. I mean, you have to. If you have been watching all season, you would probably take the Chiefs to make it.
Yeah.
That LA San Francisco game is really a toss up for me. I love Deebo Samuel. He's probably my favorite player in the league. So I'm gonna go San Francisco. Run it back.
I'm going the opposite. I'm going Bengals Rams. I'm playing off a little bit of emotion though. I'm not even a Bengals. Even though I'm in close proximity to Cincinnati, I'm not necessarily a Bengals fan for any reason other than Joe Burrow. And to see him come and inherit a team that's 2-14 2 years ago, and then tears ACL and come back, and now they're in the conference playoffs. Or conference championship game. I want to see them beat the Chiefs. I want to see them dethrone this powerhouse and advance to the Super Bowl because of how quick the turnaround would be for that program, and all the credit to Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. So that would be fantastic for me to watch. It'd be a lot more fun. It would make it fun. I'll drive up to Cincinnati to watch the Super Bowl if they make it. But I mean, not to bandwagon, just to be there for the experience. And I was actually in Kansas City when the Chiefs played in Miami for the Super Bowl that year and won. That experience being in the city that the team is from, I think is actually more fun than being at the Super Bowl, to be honest with you. So I'm really hoping that Cincinnati can pull it off and advance. And then it's kind of a toss up, like you said, for me between the Rams and Niners. I'm going to take the Rams. I think their story is pretty phenomenal as well. So love to see that. Can't wait for another hell of a weekend in the sports world. The SEC Big 12 matchup on Saturday, and then the conference playoffs on Sunday. It's going to be a blast, man. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm getting to Vegas 2 days late. I'm going to Vegas on Monday. I'd like to be there before before so I can gamble on the weekend on this weekend's games. But hey,
it's good. Dude, we're running out of football, man. This is very sad for me. I know this is a basketball podcast, and I know more about basketball than I know about football. But God, I just love football, man.
I do. I love being able. I agree. Playoffs are the best time of year too. So it's going to be one fun weekend. Hope to see you down at Lex Live on Saturday for the coverage of the Kentucky-Kansas game, and we'll kick it off the right way. So that'll do it for us, right? Do you have anything else?
No, that's it. I'm sitting here trying to come up with a movie quote before you put me on the spot.
Oh yeah. I'm putting you on the spot.
I've been watching a lot of Formula One movies lately. I watched Rush with Chris Hemsworth, and then I watched Ford vs. Ferrari with Matt Damon and Christian Bale. It's such a good movie. Such a good movie.
That is a good one. All right, you got one?
No.
Can't give me away the answer now. No.
I mean, I'm trying, dude. It's
all right. I'm
struggling.
I'm gonna put you on the spot unless you want me to fill the gap. You want me to fill the gap?
No, dude, go ahead. I'll figure it out.
Okay, here we go. Today's episode of C14 was brought to you, as always, by Bet River Sportsbook in association with Liquid IV Hydration Multiplier. Manchester Coffee, because I'm drinking my Manchester coffee again, and RD1 Spirits. For the Field of 68, thank you for listening. I'm Todd Lanter alongside Jordan Barber and
Touch my drum set.
Step Brothers. All right, brother, take us out. I'll see you Saturday.